Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zylstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. On the show today is Warren McCrea, founder of Indario Advisors. With over 2 decades of experience working with Fortune 100 companies such as Oracle and SAP, Warren now helps small and mid-sized businesses achieve organizational health and maximize profitability. He's also the author of Micro Moves, Mega Profit, which focuses on making small tweaks to boost business profitability. Warren brings a unique approach to business consulting, combining organizational health strategies with financial services to create thriving work environments. Warren, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you having me.
Great to have you here. What led you from working at major companies like Oracle and SAP to founding Indario Advisors?
The biggest thing for me was with a company as large as Oracle or SAP, you're in a very small part of the organization. I wanted to get exposed to a larger variety of activities and really learn how they all work together. Quite frankly, working for a big company, there's a lot of disconnection between sales, marketing, development, service, etc. So I figured that there was a better way to do it. With a smaller company, you can have a bigger impact and get in a little bit more of the ground floor. So I decided to kind of turn my attention to the smaller and medium-sized business space.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe you saw some inefficiencies and some gaps in the larger organizations that you really just wanted to be able to fix or have an impact on, but also maybe to be able to have a little bit more of an impact directly yourself rather than maybe being lost in the numbers even at a renowned company.
Exactly. Being a member of a company that's 10,000 plus employees, you're a number on the spreadsheet. So having your voice heard, having a little bit more impact, and seeing those ideas put into practice is really the direction that I wanted to go.
Can you tell us a little bit about, your experience on that side of things now? How are some of the ways that you're helping companies make or have an impact on some of these companies?
Yeah, I think the business structure is the biggest area that we take a look at. And what I mean by that is a lot of small and medium-sized businesses start out with a great idea. They start out with someone that's good at doing something, whether it's engineering or construction or a dentist or doctor. And then they get to a certain point where they realize, well, now, for lack of a better term, we have to become a real company. I've kind of hired all my friends and family. We've promoted people based on necessity. How do I grow it? How do I kind of take it to the next level or potentially grow it to the size that they can sell it and make a nice retirement from? So what we typically find is that there really isn't a lot of foundation. There really isn't a lot of structure in order to plug people in and have an understanding of what's going on and having those various departments communicate effectively.
So it sounds like you're in a position to have a lot of impact. I mean, these smaller and mid-sized businesses, if they don't have the sort of structure that they need to really grow, sounds like it might be a little bit chaotic when you come into it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you have to have some very honest, sometimes difficult conversations and kind of stripping things back and saying, okay, you've been successful. And this is the tough conversation is you're talking to people that have grown it to a certain point. So they have had success. It's just that to go to the next level, to have even more success, things need to change.
Did you maybe foresee that challenge before you got into what you're doing now, or did it come as a little bit of a surprise to you?
No, I anticipated that.
Yeah.
Even working for large organizations, you talk to people. I mean, when I was working with Oracle, you would talk to organizations that were multi-million-dollar companies that still had a lot of inefficiencies. And to say to them, "Hey, you're doing great, but you could do better," some people, take that in stride. Some people are a little bit offended. You just have to find the right people to work with.
Fair enough. So, as I understand it as well, I mean, the experience that you draw from isn't only from, corporate America and working for these large multi-million or even multi-billion dollar companies, but you were also a Division I athlete playing volleyball in college, right? How has your sports background influenced your approach to business consulting?
Sure. I think that the biggest thing is from a coaching standpoint, the best coaches that I had were understood a couple different principles. And one is there's no one way to do everything. And there's no one way to motivate every individual on your team. So from a company standpoint, you need to have different role players within your organization. I hear a lot of companies say things like, oh, we're a family, which I completely disagree with. If families are dysfunctional, teams run a little bit more efficiently. And what I mean by that is if you have a team of people, or you have a volleyball team, soccer team, what have you, you have role players. People understand what their role is. And the company is the same way. You have to have people that understand what their job is, understand what their role is, and enjoy that role. I mean, you want to have the right people in the right seats. So being able to coach and being able to have those honest conversations and saying, hey, I've been there, I've worked for different companies of all sizes, I understand what those challenges are. Here are some tweaks, here are some changes, here are some techniques that can help you in order to improve.
I like that approach you take, especially, thinking about businesses a little bit more of a sports team, right? Being able to work with individual players to make sure you're maximizing or helping maximize their capacity or capability. I mean, something that you mentioned there was that, the best coaches you had have taken this approach. And it brings to mind a famous coach as well that I think of, Sir Alex Ferguson, who coached the Manchester United team. Obviously, it's over in the United Kingdom and all, but I mean, that was a highly, highly successful soccer or football team. So it sounds like it's really a winning methodology that you're taking to having an impact on the businesses that you're working with.
I certainly try. I guess the best example I can give, you and I had talked about this a little bit before, is everybody has a goal. They have a revenue goal. They either want to make a certain amount of money, they want to sell the company at a certain valuation. And a lot of times from a business coaching and consulting standpoint, a lot of people will slap that title on their business card and say, hey, pay me X amount of dollars per hour to talk to me. The way that I look at it as a coach is, if you want to be a 90% free throw shooter, chances are you're going to go into the gym and start taking shots. But if I say to you, look, if your goal is to be a 90% free throw shooter, here are some techniques, here are some drills, here's some specific things that you can do in order to improve, you're going to get there that much faster and that much more, more efficiently. And that's how I view the coaching and consulting practice. I mean, the one thing, and again, going back to the sports background, that I look for is I can't teach or I can't coach motivation. You have to be motivated to want to do the drills, want to do the techniques, want to make tweaks to your business. So there are people that I talk to and I say, hey, scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you? And if they're anything less than a 10, then, I essentially say, hey, call me when you're ready. Because there are a lot of things that we can do, and there are a lot of things that we can do to work together and help you improve, but you have to want to actually follow it.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, maybe to throw in a little bit of controversy here as well, a lot of people talk about businesses or reference them as families. Right, but here you are saying it's more like a sports team. Why do you think it is that people who kind of view organizations as a family or try and call it a family or create it one might be really taking the wrong approach?
I think they have good intentions. I think what they want to project an environment that they care and they value you as a person. To be a little bit cynical, kind of the warm, fuzzy feeling. This at the same time, I feel like everyone has members of their family that are not necessarily their favorites, but they kind of love them out of obligation, if you will. There are times within a company that you have to make decisions on whether this person is the right person for that particular role or for the company at all. And from a family standpoint, you tend to tolerate your family members probably more than you should at times. With a sports team metaphor, you're looking at, hey, I want to get everybody moving in the same direction. I have a particular overarching goal, but there are a lot of individual pieces that need to come into play. So putting the right players in the right positions is more important. So, we use the soccer or football analogy. You need people that like to play defense. You need people that like to run down the strikers on the other team. Not everyone's going to be the goal scorer. Not everyone's going to be the one that, gets all the glory and celebrates individually at the end. You need the certain players. You need somebody in the midfield that can control the game. You need defenders that can protect your keepers. So all of those have specific roles, and that is more of how, in my opinion, the business should be run versus saying, hey, your family will give you a job and hope for the best.
So you come into companies, small and mid-sized companies, and sometimes they're in states of disarray or disorganization. There's a little bit of chaos. Maybe sometimes they're a little bit of a dysfunctional family. You help them play together better as a team. But the primarily what you're doing, as I understand it, is you're helping people with financial goals, right? What do businesses want? They want to make more money. They don't just want to make their employees happy for the sake of it, right? They're providing value to their clients. They're making money as a result. So a lot of what you do, of course, is focused on driving the financial side. However, you take a broader approach to that, right? Focusing on organizational health rather than maybe on just some metrics such as, reducing costs and increasing profit margins. How do you explain this type of concept to potential clients who might be unfamiliar with this sort of, I suppose, more holistic approach?
Sure. The model that I use to kind of strip it down to its most basic is the Harvard Business Review service profit chain. And the theory of this is the goal at the end of the process is increase revenue or increase profitability. I mean, that's what every business wants. The way that you get there is by having happy, loyal customers. The happier your customers are, the more loyal they become, the more money they're going to spend with you based on your product or service. The way that you get happy customers is by providing great products and great services, and the people that do that are your employees. So if your employees are dialed in, they understand their role, they're happy with what they're doing, they're in the right position, they're going to provide better products or services, which then in turn, produce happy customers, loyal customers that spend more money, your profitability and your revenue increases. So it's not always enough to say, I just want to cut costs. I want to try to, improve my product. Really, at the end of the day, your reputation and your company and your people are the ones that are going to drive all those other metrics. So taking care of them is by default going to help increase your revenue and increase your profitability.
Would you say this is becoming more common, this sort of approach, or is it something that still has you as a bit of an outlier in the industry?
It's not as common as I think it should be, right? I think a lot of people take a very kind of short-term view where they say, hey, I need instant results, I need instant profits, I need something to show on my balance sheet or income statement that looks like I'm being successful on paper. But really building that foundation allows you for consistent, predictable growth of your company, as well as an understanding of the employees that come into your company of what their role is and what they're supposed to do.
Now, you can articulate this very well, of course, because you understand the value in it, but I think I'm curious to learn from you. Are there any challenges that you face when it comes to potential clients receiving this the way that you hope they will, let's say, in terms of actually understanding truly what it is that you do?
It's honestly, I think, easier with smaller and medium-sized companies than it is with the larger companies. And what I mean by that is the smaller companies, the owners are either actively doing multiple roles or they've been there fairly recently. The larger companies tend to look at HR as more of a cost center versus a revenue generating area where they say, well, I want to invest in my people, but at the end of the day, it's my sales reps that make the money, or it's my products that make the money, or it's the R&D that I need to create. That's where my focus should be. My people just cost me money because I pay them a paycheck. And that's the complete opposite approach to say, look, if you take care of your people, if you train them properly, you put them in the right position, your company is going to be successful as a result. And some understand that off the bat. Some really hadn't thought of it that way, and some are just stubborn.
Well, I'm sure that you're providing value nonetheless, even to the stubborn ones. There's a time where you'll have that breakthrough, they'll have that breakthrough, and then they'll have even more appreciation for you for what you've brought to them. It seems like it's a very competitive industry to be in, though, right? Just, coaching and consulting in general. How do you differentiate yourself in such a crowded market, aside from this value proposition that people might not even understand initially?
It's very, very difficult. I mean, there are a ton of coaches, there are a ton of consultants. Again, just about anybody can put coach on their business card or consultant on their business card. What I've tried to create is essentially a one-stop shop for small and medium-sized businesses to really find the tools they need to be successful. So we talked a lot about the organizational health side of things. Also provide consulting and advisory on investments, insurance. As companies grow, especially in the US, they need to provide health insurance and benefits packages for their employees. And part of taking care of your employees is having a competitive compensation and benefits plan to keep them and not have them run away to somebody else. Having the advice and having the services to be able to say, let's talk about your employees' health insurance plans, their 401k plans, as a business owner, your succession plan for eventually selling the organization. Another big area is key employee insurance. A lot of small businesses, if they lose their one superstar employee, would have a huge, huge impact on their revenue and their company. So how do you protect against that? So it's not just about putting the foundation in place and growing your company, but how do you preserve it, protect it, and get it to the point that it's becoming either more successful or successful enough that the owner can sell it at a fairly high profit.
So it sounds like even in let's say we could say a crowded market or a competitive market, you find ways to provide your clients with an immense amount of value. It's not just one vertical you're working in or one service, but it's truly working with them to make sure that they have everything they need. I mean, is this approach that you're taking, is it something that you learned a little bit more with time after your career and your time in larger companies, or is this something that an insight that you took from those larger companies and you're providing it to the smaller ones that perhaps wouldn't have had access to it otherwise?
It's a good question. It's probably a little bit of a combination in the sense that I started out with the organizational health aspect of things. And then as I started working with more and more companies, I saw the need for some of these other areas. And quite frankly, I had to pawn them off on somebody else. So for things like insurance and investment and benefit plans, it's a position that you need to be licensed in order to provide. So I looked at it and said, look, this is a very common occurrence with businesses. I'll just go ahead and get licensed myself and then be able to offer that as part of our overall consulting services. So that kind of developed over time where I saw the need and I saw that recurring enough that it made sense to include that as part of the practice.
That's excellent. I mean, you're providing an immense amount of value. You're taking a position that many don't, right? You're working with individuals to get the most out of their capacity or, pull the most capacity out of them. And you're working with organizations to make sure that they're covered on all bases in a way that, larger companies already operate, perhaps the type of company that these smaller mid-sized businesses aspire to grow into. So you're providing a lot of value. And what you do is it sounds like it's incredible. What are your plans for starting to scale Indario in the near future with these things in mind?
The plan to scale is really to plug more people in and kind of specialize. So right now, I do a little bit of everything. Eventually, it would be great to have some additional licensed agents to be able to handle the benefits and 401k and financial aspect of things. Certainly have more coaches that I can train with some of the profit maximization and cost saving services that we offer. We do have a platform, we do have a process that business owners can follow. And there is some training involved in that. So being able to expand our bandwidth, have some more coaches available, and be able to serve more customers is certainly the plan down the line. But really, no plans to change the offerings. I mean, there may be little things, and again, I kind of preach and publish the book on making micro moves and kind of tweaks to your business. We're no different. So being able to kind of look at opportunities, look at changes in the market, look at what the demand is, and being able to adjust to that is certainly something that we practice as well as preach.
Of course, a very well thought out and planned response, as I expected from a business coach and advisor, but also being in the position you are, I imagine you can foresee some potential challenges to get you there. What are the roadblocks you might be facing or some of the challenges you're working on overcoming currently?
I think the biggest challenge is just the noise in the marketplace. So we talked about the fact that there are a ton of coaches, there are a ton of consultants. Why me versus somebody else? And I think one of the challenges that we have, and I'm sure a lot of coaches have, is if we have the opportunity to talk to someone and get in front of them, we can do very well. I mean, we can have a conversation similar to the one that we're having. People kind of buy in, it makes sense to them, and then we can bring people on as a client. It's getting people's attention in the first place that's the most difficult thing. And again, when you're talking about small and medium-sized business owners, they're busy with everything. They want to grow, they want to be able to do these things, but their bandwidth is pretty much maxed out with all of the other aspects of the business they're doing. Plus, any number of reps and salespeople calling them from business coaching to updating their light bulbs to, changing their stationery, right? I mean, it's so much noise that I think the biggest challenge is really getting people to understand that, hey, we exist, here are the services that we offer, and it can provide great value to them as an individual business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think noise is the biggest competitor for anyone, really, especially in today's market, right? Unless you're doing something that's completely revolutionary, then maybe, maybe you can stand out with that, but then you're up against some much bigger challenges, I think, if that's the case. What do you think are some of what are some of the things that you're working on, Warren, or maybe some of your plans for breaking out of the noise? Because what you're doing is incredible and there's a lot of value in it. It sounds like only a small portion of the market is actually doing that. But how do you think it is that you're going to start to break through that noise?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, if anyone had the magic bullet for it, I'd be happy to talk to them. But that being said, it's really a combination of exposure, references, working with the right people, partnered with Prudential Insurance Investments, who's obviously a big name company, to be able to leverage some of their expertise and credibility in products and that sort of thing to provide the best products to the clients. So it's a combination of advertising, social media, references, and then also partnering with organizations that have high level of credibility and are ethically and morally sound to be able to say, look, if you engage with us, we are going to put you in front of the best products and services in the market so that your business can be successful.
So you come from a background with great experience. You wanted to make impact. You're making that impact with an approach that provides value across so many different levels to smaller organizations. You know what you're going to have to do to grow, and you know the challenges you're up against and how you're working on solving them. We spoke the other day, and you started to tell me a little bit about how you're using AI as well on this journey to get you through these challenges and help take you to the next level. What are some of the ways that you are starting to use it?
That is great. I mean, let's kind of start at the beginning. So the way that I use AI, or I guess from an efficiency standpoint, is it is fantastic for creating what I would consider busy work. So whether it's emails, content, blog posts, I mean, a lot of time consuming kind of busy activities it can knock out in minutes or seconds. So, as an individual business owner myself, and in talking to other small and medium business owners, we're always looking for ways to improve efficiency, ways to gain more time and gain more impact. So for me, I use it on a daily basis to essentially create tasks or create content in a more efficient manner than what I would be able to do on my own.
So right now it's starting with low or getting rid of low leverage tasks, let's say, to
Correct.
free up your brain for bigger ones, right? Saving time is the current use. But how do you see AI also transforming the way that business consultants or coaches like yourself, work with your clients in the coming years?
I think AI is going to be really, really great for kind of bouncing ideas off of. So, testing strategies, testing everything from, a new product to what market is out there to, what pricing model would work, comparing it to various competitors. As business owners look to expand, as business owners look to grow, and they say, okay, I have this idea, do you think it would fly? And the traditional method would be to hire a consulting company, a marketing company, have them do a bunch of research, have them do a bunch of testing, come back to you with some predictions and some kind of report, which could, in most cases, take months or even years, depending on the size and scope. Whereas with AI, you can enter in a lot of data and say, look, here's what I'm thinking, here's the direction I want to go, run an analysis and tell me how successful or what the prediction could be, and really have that done within minutes or hours versus months or years. So being able to make decisions and being able to have better insight into your business, I think, is the direction that we're already getting into analytics. There are already a fair amount of software that can pull your data individually, but in order to compare it to your peers or your competitors or to the greater market, I think that's a huge advantage that AI is going to provide.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So Warren, in the position that you're in, right? Broad set of experience working with many different types of companies of different sizes as well. I mean, a lot of leaders, business owners, founders, managers across the board are pretty hesitant about AI as well, right? Especially with a new technology, right? It's how's this going to fit into my business? Is now the time? Is it worth it? Is it actually going to provide me with value? How do you approach conversations around things like new technology such as AI with your clients and maybe advise them about how does they should start approaching these things?
Yeah, I think that there are various types of people, right? I mean, you've got the kind of early adopters that the second a new device or technology comes out, they have to have it. Those are the easy ones because they're already using it. Then you've got the other people that say, okay, well, I hear a lot about this. It sounds interesting to me. I'm going to kind of wait and see that it actually works first before I kind of jump in. And really, I mean, that approach is perfectly fine. I mean, start small. I mean, start with kind of automating small tasks and efficiency. And then as it becomes more familiar and as it becomes a little bit more commonplace, then go ahead and navigate. Now, is there a potential competitive loss in doing that compared to someone that dove right in? Maybe, maybe not. But as I said, the one of the biggest priorities aside from making money as a business owner is becoming more efficient and doing more with your time. So even automating some basic tasks to begin with, go ahead and start doing that. And then as AI becomes more commonplace, as you become more comfortable with it, you can start kind of unloading other tasks and activities to it.
Sound advice. Now, with all these things considered, and with what we've spoken about today, with what you really help your clients with the most in terms of organizational health, what's a piece of advice that you might give to business owners who are in a situation where they realize maybe there's a little bit of chaos or disconnect, maybe they do have a bit of a dysfunctional family that they want to operate a little bit more like a sports team? What's one piece of advice you would give them to improve that organizational health?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give is be open minded to having an expert come in. I mean, understand the value of having a coach. And I kind of go back to the sports analogy because it's what I know best. Is that most people that have been successful in sports, if not all people that have been successful, have reached a certain level because of the coaching that they've received. And everyone can pretty much point to at least one, if not more, coaches that really influence them, that really put some techniques and mindset, in, instilled in them to succeed, to take it to the next level. I mean, I would say be open minded to that. It's very tough as a small and medium business owner because you're in the weeds, you're trying to run your business, you're trying to get all these things done. There are better ways to do it. And it's tough sometimes because you have to swallow a little bit of pride in some instances to say, look, I know what I'm doing and I am successful, but I'm open to outside opinions. I'm open to outside influence. I'm open to trying some new things. That would be the biggest piece of advice is just be open-minded and be willing to take advice, to learn, to talk to some of these coaches that have been there before and can give you some new techniques and some new methods that can help you be successful.
Truly valuable perspective. Thank you for sharing that with the audience for free, pro bono, no
Sure.
charges there. Or for our listeners who might like to learn more about you, your approach, or just to connect with you for a chat, what's the best way to reach out?
The best way to reach me is through our website. So Indario.com. My contact information is there. You can download a free copy of the Micro Moves Mega Profit book off the website. And yeah, happy to talk to anyone. I don't charge fees for initial consultations or phone calls. So I mean, if you'd like to talk to me or bounce some ideas or connect, I'm always happy to do so.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and for joining the show today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, David.
To the listeners, thank you for tuning into the podcast. As always, I hope this episode has brought you valuable insight, knowledge, and inspiration. If it did, please would you show your support by dropping us a like on this video and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, we're signing off. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses